And good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of GMAT Club's YouTube debriefs. It's a new year, and we're back. Yes, they wanted me back for this year as well. They can't get rid of me, and neither can you. My name is Evan. For those of you who don't know me by that name, again, see it down below. Yes, I'm an important person here at GMAT Club. You hopefully know me by my forum name, which is Nightblade354, Nightblade, and then the number's 354. My preschool teachers would be so happy with me that I can spell that. And joining me today to talk about their MBA experiences thus far, they're both in their first year, correct?
Correct.
Yes, I came prepared. Don't let me fool you. I'm prepared here. One of whom is at BU Questrom, the other is at Babson, and they're going to explain why they made their choices and subsequently how they're going through their MBA process. But before we do, we're going to have a quick little monologue here. And this has been something I've been trying to figure out how to sort of work out since last night, which is that, folks, this session is sponsored technically. And the sponsor didn't want me to tell you their name. I'm going to tell you their name. And the reason for that being is simply that on the videos that I do on my programming, I wanted to have no agenda whatsoever. I wanted to be completely candid and honest, above board, and trustworthy. And the reason I think that is so important in today's day and age is because I don't think you can really find that anywhere. Anytime you're seeing something, you have to take it with a grain of salt. When you see some of our videos that our sponsors do with the forum, gee, don't you think they may pick their best students to go on these things to cheer them on? Even on the forum, when people post reviews, where you have the likes of GMAT or EggMat, however you wish to pronounce it, who, I've heard mixed reviews from students, both good and bad. I've also heard students claim that they invest more in marketing than they do in their actual test materials. So there's a grain of salt to be had there with one of our biggest sponsors. On the flip side, there's Chart Test Prep, which I've heard decent things about, although some students have reservations. Except I've also heard that the owners go to students and want them to post reviews constantly and try and think of them as the greatest thing in the world. And it becomes sort of like a cult. And if Target Test Prep has an issue with me saying this, call it slander if you wish. I have enough students, a couple of whom are my moderators, who can verify this. So please don't push back on me with this claim. My point is that it is very difficult to truly trust when there's so much out there. And I never want you to not trust me when I'm giving my opinion, because I don't mind bashing our sponsors. I personally hate Princeton as a test prep company. I hate Kaplan, and I forget who bought them. Maybe they weren't bought. Either way, GMAT I'm sort of indifferent about. I don't hold back, and I don't want anyone to think otherwise when they're watching this video, which is why I say that Prodigy, which is a financing company, has semi-sponsored this. And our two great students here who have volunteered to come on and do this programming both received scholarships from Prodigy to help them with their MBA, which is a great service, and it should be known not only that they did this great deed, but also so that way when we talk about financing and when they talk about Prodigy, you understand that maybe, I'm not calling you guys corrupt or biased, I'm just saying maybe you don't want to take a swing at someone who's giving you money. So, with that said, off my chest, we're good to go. Everything's above board, honesty, integrity, no agenda here. So, with that said, we're going to have our candidates introduce themselves and we'll roll into the questions. I'll sort of go in reverse order and keep jumping back and forth. Praveen, why don't we start with you? Give our audience a quick introduction.
Yeah. Before my MBA, I was more involved in the automobile industry. So I was working for the Mercedes-Benz dealership, and I was handling a role with sales and marketing. And I just love selling anything and everything. And if it's anything to do with cars, that was it. And just as Sri Lanka was hit with the whole economic crisis, everyone were like, gone astray. And basically, I started applying to almost all of the MBAs. I started, focusing on achieving my dreams and pursuing new challenges. So here I am now, currently attending Babson, setting my path towards achieving my entrepreneurial goals. So yeah, so I'm a first year student there. I just completed my first semester, and it's been a wonderful journey. So I'm really excited to be there today, and I'm really glad I got the scholarship because Sri Lanka had 100% appreciation, I mean depreciation against the dollar. So my tuition cost just went flying high, and Prodigy was basically my savior. So yeah, I'm here to answer any of your questions, Evan. It's nice to be here.
And we appreciate you being here. And again, I will reiterate that explanation or that example is the reason why, in my explanation for needing to preface all of that, with making sure we're all above board and honest. Dakshay, how about you, buddy? What's your background? Tell us who you are.
Thank you, Vin. Hi, everyone. I'm Dakshayya Panka. I'm presently a first year at Boston University Questrom School of Business. I'm specializing in management science and social impact here. Prior to coming to BU, I was associated with PricewaterhouseCoopers for almost 6 years. So that was the only job I ever had. I did my undergrad in engineering, and post then I was associated with PwC. I was primarily working in the corporate forensic services. So the reason I wanted to get into an MBA program was more or less pivot to investment management, like M&A deals transformation. So that become like a primary goal for me. And I mean, I'm really, really appreciative of GMAT Club and Prodigy for setting all this up. I mean, it's really helpful. I sort of resonate with Praveen, like, yeah, I mean, the depreciative value of our respective currencies compared to the USD doesn't really help, and whatever EGMAT and Prodigy they're helping us with, it's really nice. And thank you so much for having me. Over to you, Vin.
Again, we're excited to have you. We're excited to have both of you. And GMAT Club isn't compensating them. See, unlike Prodigy, we're not paying them. So whatever they say about GMAT Club, that's real. That's coming right from the heart, folks. I mean, at this point, I think we can wrap this session up, right? I mean, I'm going to say you enjoy BU, you enjoy Babson. Yes. No, you're getting everything you want out of it. The answer is yes. All right, Jimmy, play the music. Jimmy, play the music. We can't play the music? I'm contractually obligated to keep going? Are you sure? Are either of you lawyers?
No.
I want somebody to review this contract that I have right now, but apparently because we need to continue and I have to stay on and we actually have to do this programming, let's start with how you were evaluating schools and what made you choose the likes of BU and Babson, and subsequently, when you chose your schools, did you use a consultant to help you or did you go at it alone? So, Dakshay, let's start with you.
So I mean, I think it's a very general rule. I think everyone follows. You sort of create buckets for schools that you have. Like, I mean, you have your dream schools, you have your sort of schools that you're sure that you'll get into, and then there are other schools which you're pretty much sure that you. I mean, that's not something that's not really so-called, you can call it like safe schools. So I mean, I went through the same cycle, but my strategy for round one was to go on the offensive, and it didn't really work because my personal opinion is last year was a little difficult. It was super competitive with GMAT waivers coming into place. The COVID lockdown, obviously, I mean, it gave everyone enough time to sort of evaluate if they really want to do a GMAT program or not. Oh, sorry, an MBA program or not. So, I mean, it became competitive. So, my round one strategy was mostly like go for all the schools I really want to get into. And it sort of worked, sort of didn't work because B was round two option for me, but that was super important. And again, like, you have to be true to yourself because ideally, like, for me, I was part of consultancy, and I wanted to continue like in the consulting segment. It was just I wanted to pivot to a different service. So it's super important that you are true to yourself. You know what you're capable of, because I've seen like a very good friend of mine here. He was into movie production, and now his aim is to work for a private equity. And I mean, there's like two different ends, but I mean, that's another option for people that they want to do. But again, as I said, you got to be really true to yourself. Like, why do you want to do an MBA program? And accordingly, it's important to sort of select your schools, because again, you have to be realistic. It's not about tuition, it's not about time, it's really about the experience. Because if you cannot sort of accomplish that, you cannot sort of settle well. 2 years is a long time to invest in something that you might not succeed in. So I know, I mean, there's a negative connotation to it, but it is a super fun journey, and that's why I said, I mean, it's important you're smart about it.
And
mean,
did
yeah.
you use a consultant to help you or no?
I did. I mean, I sort of personally knew a friend who had sort of who had given GMAT, and then he worked, and he probably then came back, and then he started his own consultancy firm. So I sort of knew that. So I did have additional help.
Do you feel like he helped?
To be true, I mean, again, like I'll probably just take 30 seconds here. Again, it's super important to understand like how applications work, and I would actually say if you understand that, I mean, that's the only point of the consultant. He or she can only do that for you. They can just give you like a path to think about, but it's super important that you sort of discover things about yourself. Because I mean, the whole essay and the application was like a self-discovery journey for me, because you never really think about certain things in life, and I mean, it becomes super difficult. Like when I say, okay, define yourself in like 300 words, like it's difficult. But again, like, I mean, you have to have those thinking processes set. So I mean, yeah, that's
Jokes on school. Most of those schools, I can do it in 10. But so I want to give you the opportunity to give you a shout out should you feel that they really helped you out and made you feel good about it. But it sounds like you kind of had a lukewarm feeling with it, so no need to call them out. Praveen, how about you? Schools you applied to, and whether you used a consultancy to help you with that in narrowing down the schools in your essays.
Yeah. So it was basically towards 2021. Just as everything was finishing up, I was doing my New Year resolutions. It was like the same time of the year, and I was like, okay, I'm living a comfortable life, and my wife was like, I think you really need to pursue on your dreams. And all of a sudden, I had a big dream of coming to Boston to study, and I had great plans to start my own business one day. And so what I did was I just watched some YouTube videos. I went online, and then I started applying to almost all of the schools in Boston, including BU, BC, Babson, Northeastern. So I started applying to all of them because I just had an aim of going to Boston. But then again, to be really honest, people in Sri Lanka do not really aim at pursuing their MBA in the US, but maybe their PhDs in like maybe chemical sciences to microbiology, all of that. But here I was, searching for resources because I did not have any contacts, neither any consultants who were really helping students to enter top universities. So I was really lost, and then I had my with BU, and then all of a sudden I realized,
So we are having technical difficulties here with Praveen. We kind of knew this would happen. So,
Evan?
Yes, we're here. Your face is frozen, at least on my end. But we can still hear you.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Oops.
Okay, so while Praveen tries to reconnect, I guess I can recap a little bit for him and probably say similar to Dakshayya, which is he'll reconnect here. That schools, when you're looking at schools, you're range bound given your scores and given your GPA and your work experience. You want to figure out what's the reach, what you have a legitimate shot at, and what's a reach, and subsequently figuring out location or at least maybe what you want to do post MBA. And as someone who's gone through the process, I've been told by many people there are two things you want to consider when going through an MBA. And when you get an MBA, you either need to know the location that you want to go to post MBA, or you want to know the area that you want to work in post MBA, the sector. So if you get one of those two, you're good. But Praveen, do you want to continue? I don't know where we left off here.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm so sorry. So I'm
Happens.
currently in Sri Lanka. So Sri Lanka has these power cuts going on. So currently we don't have electricity, but I'm running on a generator, and signals are pretty weak at that time. Today the schedule was not supposed to be at this time, but I don't know what happened. So yeah, basically GMAT Club came into my help, because I did not have any resources. As I said, Sri Lankans do not apply for MBAs in the US to any top universities, but for PhDs, maybe in science and mathematics, microbiology, to all of that. So I had my first interview with BU, and just after the interview, I knew that I literally screwed it up. And
Oh boy.
I was like, okay, yeah, and I was like, oh shit, what did I do? But however, I did get in. But thankfully for that day, I started researching so badly. I mean, I wanted some help. I was going. I basically I could not sleep, and somehow I found out the forums in the GMAT Club website, and then I was like, wow, people are talking about the interview questions to how you could better approach, what kind of
We're
universities will
helpful.
better suit you, yeah, your personalities. And then I was like, look here, I shouldn't be applying to all the universities in Boston, but I need to focus on what I really need. So GMAT Club really was my consultant. I did not have any consultant, but you know, I had some regrets that I should have known about this before, so that I was able to get like a better scholarship also, because our exchange rate basically, when I was applying, the Sri Lankan rupee was at 200 rupees for $1, and when I got accepted, it just jumped up by 100% to $400. And then that's why I had to go through Prodigy, because I just could not afford it. And basically, GMAT Club was the resource for that as well, to really, because I really read on reviews a lot, and I just read up on almost every opinion everybody pokes, and I just love reading up all of those. So yeah, that was basically my story, and GMAT Club was my consultant, basically, not anybody. So yeah.
And we appreciate that. We do. So sounds like maybe a dog going off in Dakshay's background.
Yeah.
So both, and by the way, for anyone watching this who doesn't know where Babson is, it's in one of the suburbs outside of Boston in Wellesley. So that's why Praveen says Boston. No, it's not. Babson is not in Boston like BU is, but it's close enough. And so I want to ask, and Dakshay, we can start with you. Did you visit any of these schools, get a feel for the culture? Or did you know you wanted to be at BU? Did you know you want to be in Boston? How did you go about doing that?
So, to be true, I mean, normally people say you really need to know the location, and that's how you go for your search. To me, it was important to know the country, to be true. So I knew for the fact that I wanted to come to the US. That was one. Secondly, my approach was more focused towards like a school which has more transitional opportunities, like where people can pivot easily. And that's how Boston came. Boston is like huge on health sector, obviously. But secondly, it's huge on consultancy also, and it's closer, like, I mean, in the East Coast, it's closer to like DC, it's closer to New York. So I mean, for me, like, those aspects were important, that if I had to move, because I mean, like, in a few months we'll all be for our summer internship. So like, I mean, for me it was more logical to sort of look at the other aspects, like at a bigger picture, if I can say, like, where can I sort of move, how can I sort of pivot, and how comfortable it is. Because like, one of the other schools that I really wanted to get into was Vanderbilt Owen, but it was like, I mean, I don't want to say like it was in sort of like a limited area where there was not a lot of opportunities. There are opportunities there, but again, like compared to, if I have to compare like Vanderbilt to BU, like obviously BU has it gives me more opportunities, and that's limited to me because I like the sector that I am interested in. But someone who's interested in finance, probably it works for them. But again, like so, my approach was more or less focused on like what my if I can say like short term goal for the next 2 years was. So I mean that's how I sort of chose on to Boston, and that helped. It worked out. I mean, I hope so. It works out. Like another year to go, but yeah.
Hey, Boston's a great place, so nothing wrong with it. And more importantly, I think your priorities were right in that what you were trying to look for and aspire to. Praveen, what about you? What, because you said you in particular Boston specific. I heard Demore McKim. I heard oh shoot, is it WP Carey or just Carey? I think it's Carey School of Business for BC, Questrom and Babson. So you were very Boston specific. What made you want to come to the city of Boston of all places?
Yeah, so it all started in 2011 when I was, approaching my undergrad education. So just as I got into my university with my advanced level examination results, I wanted to pursue on my undergraduate in Boston. And then everybody is like, you know, since I got into the university in a local context, they were like, just go for that and then try for your MBA because Boston is basically the education hub of the US, right? So that's why I really, really, really wanted to go into Boston. And then basically, I could not really visit Boston, but once I did come to the US and I really wanted to visit almost all the schools, but I did not have enough time because we came in for a CFA research competition in Chicago. So basically, I had to do my own research once again with the GMAT forums to YouTube videos, just as you said, a bit far from Boston itself. So I had to be really, hands on how to really commute to college, to all of that. So yeah, I think I was just so thankful that everything is online now that you don't really need to send somebody and picture yourself how you're going to commute to, how you're going to manage with your food and all of that. So yeah, I mean, I don't think it's necessary for anybody to really physically visit a university when you're applying right now because everything is online. I was just doing a 360-degree tour on Google Earth as well as the universities. I was just walking by using all of those maps which they have given, and it was fantastic. And why Boston was, I mean, in terms of my career goals, so I have interest in joining the automobile industry with the tech side as well as pivot myself into healthcare also, uh, which is two different avenues, but I have some long-term career aspirations over there. So Boston was the number one spot for that, and I look forward to getting into some of these top companies in Boston for my summer internships, just like Dakshayya said. So that's one reason why I really wanted to get into Boston, even though I had like this far-fetched dream just to land on Boston. So, yeah.
Which makes sense. And again, the reason I ask is because culture does play a role. You want to be able to feel that you fit in, and when you do apply to a group of schools, when you do get into one, you're usually going to get into at least another one, and you need to do the deep dive and figure out, okay, which culture speaks to me better as a student, which area could I potentially see myself in, and you guys ended up in Boston, so that is fantastic. Let's see here. How long did each of you spend on your essays? Because I know essays can be a very long process. They can take 5, 10, 15, 20 drafts in some cases. Praveen, why don't we start with you on this? How long did it take you to write all of your essays?
Oh my God. So it took me like at least a good 2 to 3 months to properly furnish my essays, because whenever I say it's done, I realize it's not done yet. Because I see that, you need to include this, you should not put this, you might not land on a great scholarship if you put this, to all of that. People are giving so many opinions. I was reading up on the forum, and then it literally took like a good 3 months to properly furnish my essay. And thankfully, I started it really early. So, yeah, I mean, I watched quite a loads of YouTube videos just on writing my essay, but I did not really find out my own story in the beginning, because my life was, all over the place, right? So I need to fit in everything into like 300 words or 400 words, just like Dakshaya told earlier. So, I mean, it was a wonderful journey where I realized a lot of things about me. And so I had to speak to a lot of people as well. And I believe that was one of the best experiences of my MBA journey, doing my essay and having that self realization of who you are and what you want to be.
That's, I guess, exactly how you should do this. But more importantly, and Dakshay, I'm sure you'll have something similar to say. For anyone who does watch this, it's not essays. People think are sort of the end, thing that you can tie off and just send off to schools. And no, once you get done with the test, you're all set. You're good. You're golden. Wrong. The essays are probably equally weighted, if not slightly more important than the test score. I've had friends who have gotten perfect scores on the GMAT who've been turned down from Harvard, MIT, Columbia, you name it. It's because their essays weren't good. Once you hit a certain point, the score doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. It's about the essay. So take your time and write them appropriately. Dakshay, I assume you did this.
Oh, definitely. I mean, I totally sort of resonate with what Praveen said, because if you think it from perspective, like your application is going to be read by a person who doesn't know you, who doesn't have your LinkedIn, doesn't have your resume. Because that's how they do it. I mean, they just read your essay, they get a reflection, and you have to. And again, like as Praveen said, it's a beautiful journey, to be true, because once you go through that, you keep on questioning yourself. Like, I mean, is that the way you want to present yourself? Mm-hmm. And again, like the next issue is obviously you have to put everything in like 300 words or 500 words. But I mean, it is. I will actually say it's a painful journey, to be true, because I probably thought that I will sort of wrap up like a major section or sort of a major write-up of my different essays that I would have like a standard format, if you can call that, by August. So I'm ready for like round one in September. But amazingly, like till like I think the last that I applied was probably like 10th Jan. I think I don't remember, it was Mendoza or some school that I probably applied to. And I kept on working. I kept on working for like 4 or 5 months. It is a tiring process, but amazingly, like the benefits you get out of it, like you get to know so much about yourself. It's amazing because you ask yourself, I mean, that's the whole process. You ask yourself these questions. You speak to like people who might know you, and they might give you a different perspective towards things, because those questions are really, or like Praveen said, like us, like just like 3 lines in your essay can increase or decrease the scholarship, can actually like get yourself, I mean, give you an admit, not get you an admit. So I mean, it's super important that, again, like I always say, like just be true to yourself, but there's always a rubric that you need to follow. So if you can find that for yourself, it works for you, then I mean that's all that you need to do.
Which I guess I could say is a reason to hire a consultant. Now, granted, there are a lot of consultants out there and a lot of frauds, but if you find a good consultant, if you spend $5,000 on a consultant, but you get $30,000 in scholarship, no, it nets out. You get $25,000 back. So just be aware. But again, what Dakshay and Praveen have said is not out of the norm. I mean, I want to say I wrote, and I've had friends who have wrote 7, 10, 15 drafts for one school. It takes a lot, and you have to figure out what's in here, guys, before you can actually write it. And more importantly, just because some people have questions around this, in my view, exclusively, the test is the worst part of this process. couldn't hate any part of it more. That said, the essays are no joke, so do take it seriously. But with that said, sticking to the line of questioning with the essays, and Dakshayya, I'll start with you, and then we can flip to Praveen.
Yeah.
Did you feel that the order that you applied and wrote your essays affected the quality? And by that, I mean, a lot of students will say the first couple of essays they write were okay, but then as they got later on, they really hit their stride. They knew what they were doing. They were feeling it. I've had other students, and they're in the minority, who have said, no, the first essay I did, I killed it. It was great. And then progressively, the quality started to diminish as I became less motivated. How did you feel about your essays? And subsequently, why do you think BU in particular liked you? What did they see, or what do you feel they saw that made them say, this is a guy we want on campus?
So I mean, to probably start off with like motivation, I mean, that is really important because I was very confident, like my round one. I applied to 3 schools. I still remember the date, like 17th of December. From the 17th to the 18th, I got waitlisted at all the 3 schools. And I was so sure that, okay, my essays are perfect. I mean, after a certain level, you actually get exhausted. You don't know like what mode you really put in, because it's your structure is same, your story sort of gets modified based on the question, like if it's a diversity question, or if it's a question perspective to scholarship, or it's just a short-term, long-term goal. But I would say, I mean, if you're motivated, definitely it improves, because that is when you sort of start understanding like how do you really make someone really impressed by your essay, because they haven't seen you. They're just reading 300 words where they'll define, where they will sort of select, are you um, eligible enough to be part of the cohort for, like in my case, like class of 2024 or not. So I mean, that was always my, I mean, that sort of drove me to be true. Like for me, it was really important to tell my story in a way. But again, like a lot of people, like when they start talking about themselves, they just don't stop. They forget that the other person might not be interested. So another very important part in those 300 words, 500 words, how do you make yourself, I'm not saying make yourself interesting, but again, like think about it like having a conversation with another person, but you're not talking. He's just reading your essay. He or she is just reading your essay. So I mean, that's important. And I feel if you're motivated, obviously you keep on improving. And people get exhausted, but I mean, that is how you sort of, I mean, that's a very personal, I mean, individualistic thing. Like how do you probably do that? But again, like for me, it was important. Like as I said, like I had to make sure that the other person who's reading my essay, they understand where am I coming from. Like am I objectively like really going towards what I'm really writing, like my goals, is it something viable for me or not? You can write whatever you want. But again, that particularly drove me, because I sort of wanted the other person to understand what I'm trying to say. um, and again, I think probably like my profile had a lot of diversity, because I sort of had a sports background. I did like sports at national level. Then the other bit was engineering that happened, and then I sort of pivoted. It's a very interesting question I get asked, like how did you pivot like from information technology to consultancy, and that too in consultancy I went for like corporate forensics, which is again a very niche domain. So it is in a way it worked in my favor, because that attracted a lot of questions that was easy for me to answer during the interviews, obviously. And it's all about like how do you make yourself I'm not saying again like don't I'm not saying like take an extra effort to make yourself interesting. Probably in my case it worked, but again, like how do you explain, put yourself in a way, sell yourself in a better manner, because it's not like just the B school applications or the interviews that ends up like you'll have your internship interviews, you'll have your full-time job interviews. I mean, that's actually the later part. When you come to the school, uh, you see like people from different backgrounds, and everyone's like it's like I mean, it's a very efficient part, that if you can network or not. And that is how you sort of, I mean, those aspects, like it's like your applications, your interviews, there are all these building blocks to like how are you going to perform in your what do you say, the first year of your B school. Because I mean, if you don't interact, if you don't, I mean, the whole point of coming to a B school is actually like meeting people from different backgrounds, discovering new things about yourself. So I mean, I sort of played on my skills, I mean, that ways, and probably I think that's how I sort of got.
That was a lot.
I realized. I'm so sorry.
Not a bad thing. This, You really hammered the point home. Praveen, how about you? Did you feel that the order of your applications affected quality in any way, shape, or form?
Yes, it definitely did. Because to be really honest, I'm not a person who can write well, but I can just speak on and on. I'm sure you would have noticed it by now. So basically, just as I was applying to one university to the other, I realized, I should not include this. I should include, my experience as, leading my Rotary Club or any of my social services, or, I would like to really give a great advice to the audience that, if you really be true to your own self and write your own story, I think that would really help you well. I mean, you don't need to basically copy an essay of what someone else did, and just land on the best B school or land on the best scholarship. So it really, that's why I said, it was a beautiful experience of my own self realization of who I am. So, if you just be true to your own self, you will realize, what you should really include and what you shouldn't do, all of that. Because in my plate, I had the best all around student of the year, to multiple leadership positions, to, doing sports, to basically, uh, I'm a person who really enjoys networking. And like, I'm wondering, how am I going to fit in all of those, just like what I said earlier. So, you know, it was a wonderful journey. Yeah. I mean, step by step, currently also, that's what I said. I feel I could have done it even better right now, but no regrets. I've landed on one of the best programs. And I think that's why, that's why it's really important for you to do the essay as well. Because of this whole self-realization, and it will help you in the long run for sure.
And why do you feel Babson said this is a guy we want on campus?
Um, that's an interesting question. Um, so I think basically it was the connections which I really valued a lot, within the university, within the academic pool, as well as the student pool. And I had multiple leadership positions back at my school time to my undergrad education. So to be really honest, I did not have a great GPA in my undergrad education,
Mhm.
but everybody, almost all of the professors thought, I had like perfect scores. So to be really honest, I did not. I mean, I was not able to do GMAT as well. So I got the GMAT waiver
Hmm.
too, and I really had to communicate I mean, what I want to do, who I am. So I think Babson really appreciated who I am, to how I'm strive to achieve new challenges, how I'm really geared to take risks. So it really fit in my profile with them. That's what, even right now when I'm in Sri Lanka, a lot of my friends keep asking me, "You are living like a really comfortable lifestyle, even though we are undergoing like on this massive economic crisis over here." Um, I mean, even I sometimes think, what the hell am I doing in Boston? Freezing up over there. So, I mean, I think it was the profile of me, how I would really add value to them, as well as how it will add value to myself in order to improve my country and the whole world, one day if I could. Yeah,
Very
I think
noble.
that's about.
No, Dakshi's wearing a it looks like he's wearing a t-shirt. I don't think he's freezing.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I have actually gotten used to the weather, to be true. Like, I mean, if it's not, say, it's not in the 20s or 30s, I mean, I'm comfortable, to be true. So,
See? Don't tell me the weather's a reason to stay away from these schools. Um, so I'm gonna ask about interviews, and then we'll hop into financing, and then we'll end there. So, Dakshayya, will start with you. Do you have any tips for those who are preparing to interview? What tips would you give to people who, again, having been through it, to prepare and how to execute well on an interview?
I think like one of the first steps is obviously do not get intimidated, do not feel nervous about it, because it is amazing like when you actually go into an interview and when you see the other person, I mean, they're not there to, they more or less just there to like know more about yourselves, more about you. So I mean, that is important, you don't get nervous. Secondly, I mean, it's very important, critical to yourself that you know how your story is. You cannot, like, as they say, like, you should always know what you've written in your resume, right? I mean, you cannot forget that. And so that's why, I mean, I think all of us have been talking about, we mentioned a couple of times, got to be true to yourself. And again, it is important, like, how do you web in all the information, like how you communicate to the other person. It's important, I mean, they come from a different culture, they understand certain phrases might be different, so it's very important that you uh, take things very basic. And again, it goes by by the reputation of the question, like short term, long term goals. I mean, they're like basic questions, you need to know how to portray that, because again, like, there's another part that when you come to B school, they say like there's something known as the pitch, like when you start off network or you are meeting an employer, like what's the first 30 seconds, how are you going to talk about it? You probably don't think of the importance at the time when you're interviewing, but again, like it's not something that you need to get intimidated about, but it's important that how do you sort of explain yourself, give yourself an introduction. So that is important, because these are like building blocks to the question. And again, you have to think about it from the perspective like the other person is not really very very interested. I mean, they're not invested in you, they're invested in getting a candidate which can fit into their cohort, right? So again, you have to think from that basics. Like, I mean, I can keep on talking about sports, but the whole point is I'm not there to talk about sports. You have to be very careful, like what are you talking about. So that is one. And probably the last bit is research the school. Everybody wants to hear about themselves. I mean, you have to figure out, again, it's not that you go on the school website, you pick up something which is very niche and then you start talking about it. It is again very important that how transition that particular thing is. It has to be transitional. So you, I mean, how do you really get affected? Like for me, it was very important when I was talking about like because I wanted to be part of the, so like, I mean, one of the major that I'm doing is social impact. So it was important that I sort of connect my story to diverse, like DEI. I mean, that is important. So that is how I phrased my conversations, my approach to the question, like why BU. Everybody knows Boston's a great city. Everybody knows Boston University is a great university. Questrom has a great reputation, but again, they know that. But from your perspective, like why and how, I mean, that's important. So, I mean, that's from my end. I mean, know the school, know the basic questions, and obviously, like, know how to introduce yourself. Like, three very basic things.
And I agree with a lot of that. Praveen, how about you? Do you feel any differently, or do you agree?
Yeah, so that's what I was about to say. Daksha just summarized everything what I really wanted to say. Yeah, I mean, I think just one more thing is, you do get to know sometimes who you will really be. I mean, who will be interviewing you. So, I was a sales guy, right, initially. So try to find out like some interesting thing of that person. If you don't really know about the person, maybe talk about the weather or something, maybe like a current affairs kind of thing, and maybe connect with them in the initial conversations. You won't get a second chance for a first impression. So remember that. And I believe you do need to practice, but um, you cannot just read out from a script. Just like what Dakshya said, you need to be true to yourself. You just need to spit out what is really required, and communicate what you have in store for them, because they do really know about what they have in store for us, right? So I mean, as long as you are really focused and be true to yourself and like communicate who you are, what you want to do, that is really really important. And I believe that initial connection will give you a great footing for the entire interview conversation, because most of these interviews are done online now, right? You don't really see each other. So it's kind of challenging, I would say, but I'm sure everybody is geared for online interviews now, though. But having said that, we are from a different cultural background to all of that, so it's really important to have that connection there. And even right now, I do speak to my interviewer, and we do we do continue that relationship what we gathered from that very first day. Um, yeah.
I actually would want to add another point
Yeah,
is
please.
that really helped me. Was actually just go through interview debriefs. Like GMAT Club, we have those forums. Where I also personally like. I mean, because I realize like if someone's taking the effort to do that, it's my. I mean, I took it as a response. Like after my interview, I sort of give a debrief. So similarly, like right before your interview, uh, a day or two, like just understand like what is like the stream of questions, because you know what the pattern of questions are. And if you're not really, if you're a person who cannot sort of like think on their feet, or who not quick with words, I mean that really helps, because you know like what's the pattern of questions. So I think that's really important. You go through the interview debriefs at GMAT Club, and yeah, that is. I mean, I just want to, because I actually use that, so I thought, I mean, that's another point which can help.
It's a great point. We do have those resources available to those who look for them, and I would echo that. I would highly encourage those who are interviewing. What's upcoming? Round 2. I think round 2, most deadlines just closed. So if you are interviewing round 2, I implore you to go to GMAT Club, go to the school, see the debriefs where people have talked about their questions, and just pound those questions over and over again, memorize them, repeat them, do it in a mirror, however you need to make sure that you have them down pat. But we're going to switch over to financing. And Dakshayya, I'm going to start with you, which is that a lot of students, I think, are under misinterpretation that you look at a school and let's say it costs, 80 is on the high end. So let's call it $60,000 to $70,000 a year for tuition. There's also the cost of living on top of that. There's your food, there's your housing, there's the travel to go and meet an alumni and go and interview for your summer internship, and then for your post MBA first job. I've been told you need to tack on about 50%. So if it's 70,000, you're probably looking at 105,000 total for the year, give or take, per year. Would you say that is a fair statement to make? And have I missed any of the costs that you are currently incurring as a student?
I mean, yeah, I totally resonate with that. I mean, those are the exact costs that you have to take care of. And probably I would say, like, I mean, school is one cost, and like your living expenses are like, I mean, if I can say it's like 50-50 or 60-40, because that's really important, that you can't really cut on those things. You got to, I mean, you still want to stay the way you've been, like, probably living your lives, whatever it is. So I totally resonate with that.
Yeah, Boston isn't a cheap city, and for that matter, neither is Wellesley. Wellesley is one of the most affluent cities in the world, not just the United States, the world. And Praveen, I assume you've had a very similar experience.
Yes, it's definitely a similar experience, but you don't really need to worry a lot on the expenses which the college gives you. We've managed to sort of half those expenses on living, work out on your connections of I managed to get myself a Sri Lankan family to look after me because of this whole dollar repatriation issues, whatever going on here. And I was lucky enough to get a landlord who really cooks for me as well.
So Praveen hit the jackpot. He hit the lottery when it came to housing. Now, we all can't be as lucky as Praveen. So these costs, again, for those who are watching, do come up. And you start to realize, oh, shoot, I need to pay for internet. Oh, shoot, I need to pay for cable. Oh, shoot, no, my laptop is $1,600. Oh, no, oh, shoot, I have to pay $80 to $100 a month to commute to and from the school. Everything starts to add up. And it's not just the tuition you have to keep in mind, which is, I guess, my point in this line of questioning, but it's also to give the sponsor. And again, I actually don't know anything about Prodigy. Not a thing. I know they're a sponsor of the forum. That's about it. I have no personal interactions with them. So I'll ask Dakshayya and Praveen right now. Given that Prodigy is helping you, I assume you both have your loans through them.
Correct.
Okay,
Yep.
I'm seeing head nods.
Yes.
So that's a good thing. That means yes. Talk to, I guess, the audience, especially myself. And Praveen, we'll start with you on this one. What was your experience with Prodigy? I mean, did they help sort of outline for you expenses? Was it a good experience? Did they just talk to me, because this is one of the few areas where I'm not an expert and have very little understanding in the field.
So in my experience, even currently, a lot of people are asking me, how are you financing all of this? And they're like, oh, wow, a company in the US, or in this case, UK, or wherever,
No idea where they're
how are they
located.
sponsoring an F1? Yeah. So people are like, how are they really sponsoring you? You're from nowhere and they don't have any guarantee certificates to whatever, right? I was reading up a lot on Prodigy because I took an entire loan for the entire course basically, because my dollar keeps depreciating. It's expected to further depreciate again, so I could not really handle on that risk. So Prodigy came to my rescue, and basically what I really understood was that the default rates are such that it's so low because an MBA student is able to pay off his or her loan position basically within 2 to 3 years. That's what everybody said. So I just straight up went and applied to Prodigy because I've never taken a loan in my life. And a lot of people are asking me, how are you really, just living? I was like, Prodigy is so comfortable, that procedure was so good. I did not have to visit any place, nor, complicate myself with, loads of documentation. I mean, if I was supposed to take a loan from Sri Lanka, I would be able to take a maximum loan of about 10,000 US dollars. But in this case, uh, this was like 10 times more, right? And I was really shocked, that Prodigy is there to fulfill anybody's dreams. And I'm really, really thankful to Prodigy, to be really honest. And I've recommended Prodigy to so many students. And I did not really know that Prodigy is, catering to students even outside the US. So I think there are a few of my other friends as well who are from Sri Lanka now, are approaching Prodigy to fulfill their dreams and aspirations. And it's, I mean, I think it was a blessing through GMAT Club. uh, so yeah, just like the interview debriefs, the forums, just stay on touch with all those students, because you'll be able to join in to WhatsApp groups, to all of that. Just stay in touch with GMAT Club. That's it.
So, and we appreciate that. So 2 follow-up questions, and then Dakshayya, I'll come to you. One, do they cover all your expenses, not just tuition? So they cover you can take out a loan to help cover for your housing, for your food, and the like. Okay. And second, did you investigate any others? Because again, this show is about being honest. And if you're telling me you went to just Prodigy, not to sink your argument, but maybe, just maybe there's a hint of bias of, I took them, they've been great, therefore they're the best thing in the world. I want to make sure everyone is aware. So did you explore others, or was it Prodigy and they did it for me and I'm very thankful? Yep. Praveen, can you still hear us?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. Can you repeat the question again, though?
Basically, did you search for other loan companies, or was it just Prodigy?
I, of course, definitely did search for other companies. There were I don't know if it's okay to say, mention them. So I did
Yeah, go
research
ahead.
on Empower, Juno, and then Discover uh, Bank. And Prodigy was so easy. I mean, just as I said earlier, I read a lot of reviews. So Prodigy was supposed to be the easiest, and I just took it up. That's it.
Very fair. I just wanted to make sure we were aware of the context. And Dakshay, how about you? I assume you've had a similar experience that you've enjoyed your time with Prodigy to this point.
Definitely. Yeah, I think Praveen's covered it. Yeah, probably the same set of competition, if I can call. They were there, but probably again, it depends. For me, it was really easy to communicate with them. And for a fact, like something I really liked is the structure is, that the whole structure around accepting an amount, it just doesn't revolve around like what you want. It is something. So if you see like all the B schools, they have like an estimate of what's your annual expenditure. Like they add the they take an average and they put those numbers there. But with Prodigy having those numbers right there, it helps because again, like it's very difficult. Like till the time you don't come here, you don't know these expenses. Like you have stationary expenses that you don't really think of. You have book expenses that you probably have to buy like a Harvard Business Review subscription, which is going to cost you $100 or $200 for like for like a subject like finance or econ. Like you have these. There are these expenses which you don't really foresee, and if it's structured in that way, it really helps. That's one thing. And secondly, the comfort of like I really don't have to worry about uh, like my tuition. Number one, and secondly is my stay because I stay on campus, so everything is attached to like one account, and I don't have to worry about like once they get so they get in touch with the school, they verify that, and then I'm out of the equation to be true. Like I am nowhere to be concerned until the time I'm like repaying the loan. It's just between Prodigy and the school, which makes it super easy. Money is an issue like which can like keep you awake at night if you like, oh, I have to pay the tuition. Like people have to do that because they have to transfer money, they have to figure out sources, but I don't have to do that. So sorry. So that's a great plus point. Like the way it's customized to your need. That really helps.
That does sound easy. Now, let me ask, by the way, are you feeling okay? Sounds
Oh,
like you had the sniffles.
Yeah, I did. It was raining here on New Year's, and then yeah, it's the cold's there since.
You poor guy. I hope you feel better. Similar to Praveen, did you just do a very in-depth search, or was Prodigy sort of the one that stepped up and you saw it and you said, "This is it"?
To be true, like I did search, but
no, like Praveen. Sorry, not you, Praveen. My bad.
Sorry.
Yeah. So in a way, yeah, they did step up. Because you get in touch. As I said, like the conversation was super easy, and then obviously you do compare the quotes that they give you. So yeah, that way, like for me, like they were quite approachable. So it's just like how you trust someone. For me, it was easier to sort of trust in their process, so that helped.
Terrific. So yeah, we're coming up on time here. Praveen, I'll start with you. Is there anything we didn't hit on this session that you wanted to hit on or discuss, or was something in the back of your mind that you want to say? Now would be the time to do so.
All I can say is just don't panic. Stay focused. Even if it's your MBA interview, or let's say you've not done you've not had a great professional life, or maybe you've not had the greatest academic life, but just focus on your dreams and aspirations. And I'm so sure the USB schools appreciate who you are and they value you. And
your money.
Thankfully yep. And thankfully in my case, it was the finances which was the limiting factor, and Prodigy was the rescue for me. And so don't really stress on any of the limitations. Just go for the challenge, accept those risks, and stay true to you, stay committed, stay you, is my advice to anybody.
Very nice. Dakshay, how about you? Any last comments, thoughts?
Definitely like what Praveen said, that's really important. But I would say like really plan your things out, because once you're here, you don't have a lot of time. Amazingly, like I think Praveen will probably agree with this. MBA is just a 2-year course, and amazingly, like the first semester is something that you will never experience that in life. So you really need to enjoy that. So to enjoy that, you have to really plan. Like if you take care of these things, or your different processes that are there, everyone has a different way to handle things. So I would just say, like, just plan, like just be ready, plan, so you can enjoy this. This is an experience that you're supposed to enjoy. So yeah.
Couldn't have said it better myself. So, folks, I'll wrap up by saying, one, thank you to Praveen and Dakshay and to everyone who watched or will subsequently watch in the future. Two, I will say that, again, I'm not familiar with financing companies, and so obviously this has been an interview or a debrief, if you will, where two students had a positive experience with a company. Yes, they were compensated, but it sounds like they had an enjoyable time nonetheless. And three, I hope all of you watching got something out of this, that your MBA journey, your path maybe is a little more clear. You understand what you're getting yourself into down the road, should this be the path you take. So from myself at GMAT Club, to Dakshay, Praveen, and everybody else out there, we hope that you have a fantastic weekend, or if you're watching this in future, have a great day. And we hope to see you for future videos and to have you engage with us down the road. So take care, everybody.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Evan.